Hey, what's up, guys? Sitting here with Joe, and we're going to be talking about whether you should hop into the market in 2023 or if you should wait a little bit longer to buy your first investment home. And I think it's going to help a lot of people who are like 18 to 45 and basically really looking for a place to either live in and use it as an investment or basically have it as their first investment property. Joe right here, he's a multi-millionaire, runs short-term rentals and long-term rentals, and give us some insight about what the market is doing and whether you should get to your first real estate investment in 2023. If I was a 25 to 45-year-old first-time investor, maybe I have like my primary home already, but maybe I don't. What would be my first couple steps? What would I do?
All right. Well, where I would start is if you're new to real estate investing, find a loan officer. Find a good, credible loan officer. You can either get in touch with one of us or somebody maybe in your circle. It's always good to check out, at least two, maybe three different loan officers, so that way you can find out exactly what you qualify for, because that's where you're going to know where to start, right? Instead of going and looking at properties that you may not be able to afford, right? So I would definitely start there. If you already have a property of your own, that's something that's kind of different, because from there you can go a couple different ways. You could either try and take money out of that property and buy something else to invest in, or you can buy another property with less money down for another personal and rent that one out completely. So a couple different ways to do things, but good question.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
So now we figured out our lending options. So how do you go about actually finding the deal and basically getting it owned by you? So what's the next step?
All right, so next step, if it's either, you say, your first or second property and you've already gotten with a loan officer, if you're going to be house hacking the deal, then I would say that's going to be a little bit different than if you're going to buy it as an investment property. So let's say you're buying it as an investment property or your personal residence. What I would look at is how the property cash flows as far as renting it out completely. So I think a good rule of thumb is if you're buying a house and you can rent it out for $2,600 a month, let's say, and when you go get your loan, it's similar to that. Even if you're living in it, that's okay, because say you're renting somewhere right now and you're spending $1,500 a month, and now you buy a property and you're only paying $2,600 a month, and say you rent out two of the rooms for $800 a piece, well, now that's paying $1,600 and you're only paying $1,000. So you're actually saving yourself $500. Even though people feel like that's not really investing or making money, you're saving money, you're building equity in a property, and now you're in the market, right? And then from there, you just keep on going. And since it's something that you live in, and if you're renting right now, you can actually use some of that write-off for your W-2 job, and that'll save you money in the long run as well.
So how do you think that plays in? So you're making $800 a month. How much should they actually spend on actually acquiring the home? So how much do you spend on your down payment? How much should be the purchase price? Things like that.
Well, so when it comes to the purchase price, it really depends on what you qualify for in that aspect. I would say put as little down as possible. That's personally my rule of thumb, is trying to put as little down as possible, so that way you can save it to buy the next property. And then also you have some reserves as well, just in case something happens and maybe you can't rent out some of those rooms, if that's the way that you choose to go. Now, if you're choosing to go to directly to an investment property, obviously you want to look into that area and you want to find out what current rents are going for, what your cost of that property, whether it's going to be single family, multifamily, what that cost is going to be, and look at your cash flow.
I completely agree with what Joe said. And the way to think about this is if you're looking at purely from an investment perspective, one of the biggest metrics you got to think about is cash on cash return on investment. So basically, the less amount of money you put down, the larger your cash on cash return on investment is going to be. So basically, if you can do that 3.5 that Joe was talking about, your bottom number is much lower. And basically, if you're cash flowing on this deal, you're going to have a larger cash on cash return on investment. And if you're comparing towards the stock market, which makes around 7 to 10%, depending on how you're adjusting it for, you can get easily 50 to 100% returns on a lot of short-term rental investment deals. So why I think real estate is such a good investment. Hi, today we got Joe coming in today. Joe, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, guys. And by the way, if you don't invest in real estate now, this is what you're going to be living in the future, because you're not going to have control.
Do you really want to live in this? Come on, guys. Now that we know how to figure out lending, how do you go about picking the right agent for your first real estate investment?
So I think the importance with picking an agent is somebody that you like and trust. So obviously going to someone that you know in your circle and finding an agent that maybe they've used that they're really happy with, but also depending on what kind of property you're buying, especially if it's an investment property, I think it'd be smart to find someone who's done investments themselves and someone that's seasoned, that knows the market very well. So a really easy way to do this, if you don't don't have a suggestion from somebody else, it's just going on either Zillow or Redfin or both and looking up the top agents in that market, talk to them, see how you feel with them when you're talking to them on the phone, and I just think that's a really good way to start.
In addition to Zillow and like Redfin and stuff, if you can go to like these meetups that are specifically real estate focused, you'll meet really great people who are investment friendly agents, and that's another really good way to actually get your foot in the door and figure out who is going to understand what your needs are as an investor. And if you find a real estate friendly agent, it's going to be much better for you in the long run.
Hey Jeff, you know what we need to tell people is that their rent is going down the toilet.
I know. So if you really want to take your life seriously and not watch your rent go down the toilet, make sure you take this video seriously, hit the like, comment, sub, and you'll be a lot happier that you did. Alright, so Joe, so now it's 2023, it's January to June. Do you think people should get into the market now, or should they wait on the sidelines until basically Q3 of 2023?
Well, I definitely think that people should get into the market now, but obviously educate yourself and do it the right way. Don't just get in just to get in, but be specific about it.
Do anything to buffer themselves against the risk of buying at a higher price now? Like say interest rates start to slowly creep down, do you think prices will go up, or interest rates stay stable, or is it just like it's anyone's game?
Well, I would say if you analyze the deal correctly enough, then you can make something work. It's not always necessarily about the price or the interest rate that you're paying, because eventually, as we know, the value of the property is always going to be going up. So yes, you want to do your research and make sure you get a good deal on the property. But as far as like just because you're getting a high interest rate doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing it. So make sure you save some money, educate yourself, ask questions. We're both here, and get some coaching possibly.
Absolutely. So if you are basically buying for the long term, the housing market generally appreciates at a 3% rate on an annual basis, so it's pretty well buffered. So even if you buy at a little bit higher price, if you can wait long enough, there's a good chance your property will still be worth more than what you bought it for. I do suggest at this moment in Q1 to Q2 of 2023, because basically we're still in an uncertain area, offer a little bit more aggressively, and that will basically make your risk a little bit lower. So if you're offering like $100,000 less than asking or what the place is actually valued at, say in 2 months, 3 months, interest rates just rise and basically the flood of inventory just increases and no one wants to buy houses, the house that you just bought is likely to go down in value. And because of that reason, and you bought at $100,000 less, basically buffered from that loss already. So if you can buy at the correct price and make sure that when you actually run the numbers that you're cash flowing and positively cash flowing, rents generally don't increase at the same rate as prices will fall down. So that's one really good way to buffer yourself from risk. So even though just like Joe said, there's no really bad time to buy real estate of like the type of deal you have. So if you buy a really good deal during Q1, Q2, now that you have a lot more negotiating power because sellers are feeling the pain, there's a good chance you'll be able to basically ask for like seller credits, lower prices, and maybe ask for like down payment assistance. So there's a lot of things you could do. Be a little bit creative. Don't be stuck on a one-track mindset, basically.
100%. I think that's a great way to look at it, and definitely kind of just analyze things and kind of get through it, make sure your numbers work, and it can only get better from there, because if you wait and things go the other way around, and now you're going to be kicking yourself in the butt saying, oh, I should have just done the deal.
Joe, how can I find you, man?
SoCal Traveler, so SO_CAL_Traveler at Instagram, YouTube, and then our Financial Freedom podcast on Spotify and Apple.
Hit them up, send them some DMs. It'll basically be a really good opportunity for you to network and basically learn more about real estate investing.
Thanks for your time, brother. Here's a link to that video that might help you on buying your first short-term rental in 2023.